Hi everyone! Today we're going to be setting up our science notebook. This year I've made a video, so whether you're new to class and it's your first day or you've had me for the last 3 years, this video is going to go through the 7 steps that you need to set up your science notebook. The first thing we're going to look at is the front cover. So in your front cover you'll want 3 things on your notebook. Your first and last name, the name of the class that you're in, and the class period. So if you want to put that right on the front of your notebook, you are more than welcome to do so. Second thing in our list is page numbers, up to 100. So when we number our pages, what I want you to do is go ahead and open your notebook up and start this page right here. This first page is page 1. On the back is going to be page 2. Next page is going to be page 3. Then page 4 and page 5. So for those of you that are really on the ball, you'll see the even pages are always on the left side and the odd pages are always going to be on the right side. So take a minute and number your pages from 1 to 100. The third step is to set up your table of contents. That's our third box. The table of contents is actually not going to go on page 1 and it's not going to go on page 3. So if you'll notice in my example notebook, page 1 is blank and so is page 2. The table of contents is actually going on page 3. So if you look at the top right here, I wrote out table of contents. I have a column for the date, the activity, and the page number. If you notice that my first activity says Science Class Expectations, page 7. You can actually copy this in your notebook too, because this will be true for you also. So you'll want Class Expectations on page 3. And I want you to actually make 2 pages of class expectation, table of contents. The second table of contents will be on page 5. So if you're going with me, you'll see that you have your pages numbered. Page 1 is blank. This page is blank. And there's a table of contents on page 3. And there's a table of contents on page 5. The fourth step that I have for you is to paste in your science expectations on page 7. So for those of you that were here on Friday, we filled out our class expectations. If you weren't here on Friday, that's okay. Just watch this part of the video and I'll get you caught up later. So if you look, I have on mine science class expectations, page 7. So you'll flip to page 7 and you can tape this on page 7. In addition to taping it, I'd like you to put the date in the top part of the page, as well as the title Science Class Expectations, because it's actually not titled on this little page. So that's your next step. So just to recap, we've done our front cover, we have our page numbers up to 100, we've set up our table of contents, we've pasted in our Science Class Expectations, and now I would like you to identify the top 3 things to remember about class expectations on page 6. So if you look, this is page 7 that we've pasted this on. On page 6, so on the left side, I want you to write down the top 3 class expectations you think you need to remember to be successful in this class. I highly suggest you include something about missing work or absences, as well as something about the attendance grade. These are 3 things that you want to identify, and that's all that's going on the left side of the page. So page 6 and page 7 will look the same for everybody. The next thing you need to do is to set up your glossary. Your glossary is kind of like a dictionary or an index in the back of your notebook where we're going to put keywords. So I like to close my notebook like this. Remember, this is the front. And then I just like to take my notebook and flip it. So once again, your notebook is closed on the front, we just take it and we flip it. So the binding is on this side. You should be looking at this little funny thing at the top. And I like to put mine backwards. If you have a different way of doing it, that's fine. But I go through each letter of the alphabet, and each letter of the alphabet is a half of a page. So this is A, followed by B. I turn the page and we have C, and then I go to D, and then E, and then F. Oop, where's F? There we go. So if you're wondering, is it backwards? Absolutely it is. Keep going from A through Z, backwards half of a page. So once again, A, B, C, D, E, F. You guys know the alphabet. G, H, and you keep going all the way through to Z. I make each letter about a half of a page. If you write really large, you can make each letter a page. The very last thing I want you guys to do in your notebook is to set up your graph grade. This is where you're going to graph the progress of this class and how you're doing. You'll get a half a sheet of graph paper from me. If you go back to the front of your notebook, the graph grade is on the inside front cover. So it's actually before page 1 on the inside front cover. This is my example, and these are some of the things you want to include. Don't forget to put a title. My title is My Grade in Blank. So you'd put whatever class you're in this blank. My x-axis, remember, runs along the bottom. My x-axis is actually labeled as the date. So go ahead and label the bottom as x-axis, but leave a little bit of space because you're going to put the date right above it. My y-axis, it's going up and down right here, I've labeled as percentage. Remember, 0 is the lowest percent you can get in class, and 100 is the highest. I suggest counting by not tens and not twos, but something in between. So keep in mind, you want your graph to go from 0 to 100. I've given you a little bit of a clue. If you're struggling on how many to count by, raise your hand and just let me know. So this is everything you need for your science notebook. So let me just go over the checklist one more time so you can see the whole thing. You want your front cover, you want your pages numbered up to 100, you want to set up your table of contents, you want to paste in your science class expectations on page 7, you want to identify the top 3 things to remember on page 6, you want to set up your glossary, and you want to set up your graph grade. If this is your first day in class, these 2 boxes you may not be able to do, and that's okay. You can just skip them and raise your hand, and I'll come over to you as soon as possible and kind of help you get caught up. For those of you that brought your notebook today, that's wonderful. If you didn't bring a notebook today, you have 3 options. Option number 1 is you can get a notebook from me and pay me before Friday. Option number 2 is you can work for 10 minutes at lunch this week, and I'll buy your notebook for you. If you don't want to do option 1 or option 2, your third option is that I'll put you on the fee list with Mona. This is a list that you need to pay before you graduate and receive your diploma from Jefferson. So these are 3 options for you if you did not bring your notebook today and you do not have $1. I highly suggest option 1 and option 2. Once again, these are the 7 steps that you need to complete for your science notebook. Please raise your hand if you have any questions, and feel free to watch this video as many times as you need to in order to get all set up and ready for class. Thanks, guys.